All right, after a couple rounds of some technical difficulties, we are back. Big
Now we're
facts
here.
coming live to you. And Justin, first off, congratulations on a phenomenal week 4 pick'em against the spreads. Justin was 9-2-2 last week. One of those games was the Cardinals game, who I don't think anybody saw the Cardinals losing this week. So congratulations on that. We did have 2 ties. Now we picked the spreads at a different time, so they did fluctuate a little bit, but we tied on Baltimore giving 14 points to the Redskins. And there was
Washington football team.
Washington football team was giving 7 and tied that too. So good job this week. What I want to do here first, Just, is I want to dig into this Eagles game because we haven't had a chance to. Eagles come out with a huge win. I thought the defense played really well. There's some key individual guys that I want to talk about. But give me a breakdown of the game from your point of view. What you liked, what you didn't. Are you optimistic? Are you still kind of out on this team? And what are your thoughts going forward with Pittsburgh and Baltimore coming up?
Out on this team is a pretty simple question. I mean, if they win the division with 6 or 7 wins, are they going to win anything in the playoffs? Probably not. So out on this team is going to be here all year. My team's not going to win a Super Bowl. I accept that. I can't compete with Seattle. I probably can't compete with Green Bay. I certainly can't compete with Kansas City. It's a down year. I've said this to you twice in the last couple of episodes. I would much rather lose more now and get a better draft pick because it's a lot harder to miss a top 8 than it is to miss a 22nd overall pick.
Yeah, let's get a good draft pick.
All right, so here's what I saw in the game. I saw Doug Peterson make less mistakes but still not be a great coach. I saw Jim Schwartz's players save him in a lot of situations. I think Jalen Mills shifting back to corner looked okay. He's not anything to write home about, but I said this when he switched to safety. He's a better corner than he is a safety. Is he good at either position? Not really, but he's better as a corner than he is a safety. I have one very bright shining spot of that game, and it wasn't Carson Wentz not making mistakes as much as he did the week before. It wasn't Miles Sanders. It wasn't Zach Ertz. It wasn't that receiver whose name I still can't remember that called a very big touchdown pass.
Oldham.
Jordan Mailata
Yep.
is probably the most exciting young player on this team, and here's why. You got a guy who played rugby his entire life and never set foot on a football field. And his first start is against the San Francisco 49ers defense that is not bad. They're a pretty stout, strong, fast defense. And I'm going to say this. I know that we've got all pro Jason Kelce. I know that Lane's back on the right side, who's also probably the second or third best right tackle in the league. I think Jordan Mailata was the best offensive lineman last week. What I saw out of that kid to not allow a sack, to really not allow too many crazy pressures in his first real game, in his first start. If this kid continues his development through this season and they let him play that position, my man's going to be a problem for the rest of the league, bro. He is a big, strong – he's an ox, bro. You don't get past him. You don't get through him. And, I mean, he's so large you can't get around him.
Yeah.
If he continues his trajectory, that is the biggest bright spot I saw last week on this Eagles team.
Yeah, so let me just kind of lay out for everybody because you have to somewhat follow the Eagles to kind of know who this guy is and realize that everybody's been waiting for this guy to get on a field. It's been a 3-year project. The guy's only 23 years old. So Jordan Mailata is 6'8", 350 pounds, ex-rugby player. Tank of a guy.
Big man.
He's never played peewee football. He's never played football in high school. He's never played varsity. He's never played a snap in college. So for everyone at home that's listening to this, you need to understand that this guy's first ever football snaps were in the NFL. The game tape from him was impressive to say the least for his first start. I can tell by watching the tape that he's not extremely confident in some of his movements, which is just going to come with reps, and he hasn't gotten any game reps. but he is a really difficult guy to get around in pass protection. His PFF grade was right on par with Lane Johnson's last week, and Lane Johnson is an all-pro Pro Bowler, has been for almost a decade now. So to think that a guy has never played a down of football, I think he had 1 or 2 false starts, but Jason Peters gives you that anyway. I mean, it is what it is. But this guy is quick. He needs to develop his run blocking scheme a little bit more, and that's just going to come with time. But I don't think people understand how hard it is for your first ever action to be in the NFL. Now, Nick Bosa and Dee Ford were both out of this game, and people kind of will they go against the real DE? First of all, everybody in the NFL is a real defensive end when you're making your first start. I don't want to hear that. But secondly, the Niners have 2 guys that he was going up against for the majority of the game that were first-round draft picks. So it was Eric Armstead and Deion Jordan were both drafted in the first round. So these are 2 guys that have been playing football since they were 6 years old. And they got 1 pressure, no actual hurries, no sacks. And even when he wasn't moving confidently in run blocking, it's like he can put an arm up and he halts people. He's got to develop the mentality, which he will because he's a rugby player. You don't have this mentality. You can't be a rugby player without the mentality of I want to crush guys. Rugby is a very demanding physical sport. So even if Jason Peters becomes healthy and wants to come back, I don't see a reason to put Jason Peters back at left tackle if you want to develop Mailata. If you want to maybe slide Jason Peters back over to right guard now and let Herbig play left guard, I think that actually solidifies your line a little bit better. I'm tired of seeing Peters at the left tackle position, to be quite honest with you. But there was a bomb dropped on Twitter, and I want to know what you think of this for the rest of the season. I don't know where this is coming from or what happened. A couple things with breaking news, which we'll cover in a second. But Trey Thomas was breaking down Mailata's game film, again, which was impressive. And somebody said, what happens when Jason Peters comes back? And Trey said, and I don't know if he has inside information, he said, Jason Peters is not coming back. I don't know if he meant to say that. He didn't, give you anything further. So that either tells me that he's just not going to be starting, or he is injured beyond what we know. And it's just a done season for him at this point. If Jason Peters is healthy, do you even consider, with what you just saw from Mailata, moving Jason Peters back to left tackle?
You can't, and it's because of what I said in the beginning of this. You're not competing to win this year. If you're putting out a 38-year-old left tackle, it's because he's your best shot at accomplishing a goal, which would end with a Super Bowl title. You're not in that position. I don't care how many things go right. I don't care how many practice squad trash heap receivers Carson Wentz might make look good. It doesn't matter. Your team is too full of holes to be able to compete with Green Bay, Arizona, if they make it through. There's too many deep teams that you're not going to make a serious run this year. And again, on top of that, Mailata was drafted to be your guy. That's why you drafted him in the 7th round. A lot of people forget this. This was a battle in the Eagles front office. A couple of guys wanted Mailata, and a couple of guys said, Andy Reid did this with Danny Watkins. We don't want it. So
Danny Watkins, they took in the fucking first round. So.
No doubt, exactly. And that was kind of what the justification was for the guys that won taking Mailata. This is a 7th round pick. It's like taking a flyer on a guy as an undrafted free agent. We want the first crack at him. Let's see what we can make out of this guy. I don't see a reason why you stop the progression of the youth. When you look at this team from the outside with objective lenses, the biggest problem is they're old. Jason Kelsey's in his mid-30s. Lane Johnson's 31 or 32. Jason Peters is 117. Deshaun Jackson is old. Alshon Jeffrey is old. Brandon Graham is old. Fletcher Cox is old. You have so much old on this roster. The point of these late round picks of hitting is you're not investing tremendous capital to get a younger guy at the position you have need of. And the left tackle position is an important position. It's arguably the second most important position on a football team. Right. Your blind side of your quarterback is very important. And if you can make this 6'8", 300-pound rugby player Learn how to play right. It's important. And to me, what Trey Thomas meant there is you got to look at the whole picture. And you left the cherry off the top of the sundae that we got with Jordan Mailata. Did you see his post-game press conference?
I saw it in words, but I didn't watch it.
So he got asked by a reporter what he's doing and how easy it's been for him to fill the shoes of Jason Peters. And his response back, and I'm paraphrasing, was, "I'm not here to fill anybody's shoes but my own. I'm not here to be somebody else. I'm here to be the best me I can be." And that's what guys like Lane and Jason and Matt Pryor, all these guys are helping me become. I'm becoming Jordan Mailata. I'm not becoming Jason Peters. I'm becoming me and what I'm meant to be. And that statement to the coaching staff, to the front office, put out the idea that Mailata is not out there to go be somebody but himself. And he takes himself seriously. He works hard every single day. If the Eagles, listen, this is proof if there's never been any. If Jason Peters comes back in week 6 or week 8 or week 10 because he's healthy, and Doug Peterson pulls Mailata regardless of his progression, and let's say Mailata plays just like he did on Sunday, if Doug Peterson puts Jason Peterson and pulls Mailata, he is probably the worst coach in the NFL. That is something you do not do. You do not impede the progress and the learning of a young player when you don't have an answer for that position next year. Jason Peters isn't coming back again. This is Jordan Mailata's job now. And you got to put him up and prop him up and let him earn his knocks now in a season where you know you're not competing for a title. So next season, as you retool younger, one position's already addressed.
Not to mention, next year when Dillard gets back, you're going to have some options. So you get, Isaac Samola back. You get Brandon Brooks coming back. And then you have Herbig, who's performed extraordinary at the guard position. He's the future at the left guard position. Even when Brandon Brooks gets back, you're going to put him over at left guard. And then you could start going into a draft and addressing things like the center position, because I have 2 left tackles. So maybe I can put Dillard. If somebody gets injured, I'm confident I have a couple first-round picks. I have a guy that's developed. I'm getting Brandon Brooks back, who's locked in to a contract. I'm getting Lane Johnson. I don't have to worry about the right side. And now with Herbig and whoever it is that ends up starting, I don't have to worry about my left side. And, I also don't have to worry about someone going down with injury and completely wrecking my line because I have guys that can fill in. It's an exciting problem to have. I 100% agree with you. I don't think that Peters should touch the left tackle position. To be honest, he's just too slow for the left tackle position right now. So if you want
to I'll take 2 false starts over the 7 Jason Peters gives me. I'm sorry. Listen, There's no argument. Jason Peters' career is probably the greatest left tackle to ever wear an Eagles uniform and a top 5 to ever play the position. I'm not going to take it from him. But in the last 3-4 years, I mean, my man's got 40 false starts a year, and he's just too old. And that's when you know that. He has to cheat because of how weak he's gotten in old age. And it's not to take away from the greatness that was, but this is a league of now. What have you done for me lately? And lately, you've shown me that you can't handle this position anymore. And I need to see the youth. And having that problem's right. In the beginning of the season, who did we miss the most that we lost in the offseason? Big V. We had no swing tackle. We had no guy that could plug and play every position but the center. So when Brandon Brooks went down, we had no answer. So when Lane Johnson was out for a week, we had no answer. So when Jason Peters gets hurt, we have no answer. And having Dillard as that guy, that's what we've got. And don't forget, we have Jack Driscoll too. Mm-hmm. We have 2 guys that can be swing guards and tackles because for some reason in Philadelphia, our offensive line has horrendous health. It just is what it is. I mean, they get hurt every single year, no matter who it is. So having that level of depth, I agree with you. What that now allows you to do is you can look for a center high if there is one. And if there's not one, now we can really start to put some emphasis on the defensive side of the ball. We can find a pass rusher to replace Brandon Graham. We can find linebackers. We can find a corner to play opposite of Darius Slay that's better than Jalen Mills because your offensive line, which is the second priority behind quarterback, is all the way addressed. And that's the best part about this game to me was seeing that we have guys that can handle the job when needed.
Yeah, now the best thing I took out of this game, to be honest with you, mostly was right now, statistically, and I know it's not a fact, but statistically the Eagles do have a top 3 defensive line in the NFL that's able to get to the quarterback. Now, the 49ers offensive line was banged up. They had a backup quarterback, but let's give the Eagles defense a little bit of credit here because just last week and in his previous starts from seasons ago when Garoppolo was out, Nick Mullins has played extremely well to a point where, and everybody jumps to, say these things right off the bat. He's a franchise quarterback. He's not a franchise quarterback, right? But he's not a bad quarterback. He's a solid backup.
He's Jimmy Garoppolo's backup. That's not a franchise quarterback.
Exactly. So, there was, if he plays well, is Jimmy going to get his starting job? Jimmy Garoppolo is better than this guy. San Francisco isn't elite at the quarterback position. They have elite coaching, elite playmakers, and that's just how they win ball games. On the opposite side, so we have an offensive line that's shaping up, and I'm glad to see the rookies and the backups getting some time and proving themselves. A defensive line that's getting to the quarterback. Malik Jackson has done a really good job this year coming back and being healthy and causing destruction in the backfield on runs. And
very underappreciated.
Absolutely. I haven't seen anything from our big signing Hargrave, but he's in a different system. Give him a little time to adjust. But we paid him a lot of money. I got to start seeing something. Fletcher Cox is Fletcher Cox. Brandon Graham is having a hell of a year. I felt like he took a little bit of a step back last year. He was consistent, but he wasn't dominant. I feel like this year, for whatever reason, he's been able to come right back out and be a dominant player again. He looks like he looked 5 years ago. I don't know where it's coming from, but I'm enjoying watching it. The defense has played well. Carson Wentz last week had a Carson Wentz with my practice squad wide receivers game, right? He did enough to win the ball game with guys that shouldn't be on the field. He wasn't going to be airing passes out because that's just not the game plan you develop when you have a bunch of backups in. But almost 200 yards, touchdown, interception, rushing touchdown, did a lot with his legs, enough to extend plays, get first downs when we needed him to, and just did enough overall to win the game. What did you think of Carson Wentz's performance? Do you feel a little bit better about watching him play last week, or are you still kind of in the mindset of he's not doing enough?
I mean, he took a step forward, I think, and I don't know if I want to use the term step forward because this is what we've seen before. So he took a step closer to where he was before. I'm telling you, dude, I don't know how to say this any other way than it is, and this is just the facts. Carson Wentz has not done anything to prove to you that he is an elite level franchise quarterback. He's a franchise quarterback because he's going to get paid $34 million a year. He's a franchise quarterback because he shows you flashes of greatness, but the flashes of greatness have become fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer year by year. And this is the problem that I've got with Carson Wentz. If you're able to have the vision to extend a play, to have a couple of the runs he did a lot of good things in this game. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you can't look at the sky and tell me it's green. He did have a lot of good plays. But where is that when my talent's on the field? Why can't I see that when my starting wide receiver core is there? Who can, if you extend a play another second, Deshaun Jackson's open down the field. Alshon Jeffrey's a possession wide receiver. That half a second extra that you get with your legs, maybe he gets himself far enough away from a corner where you can throw him the ball where only he can catch it. I haven't seen Carson do that with real talent since his almost MVP year. And that's still my concerns. Until I see Carson Wentz be this Carson Wentz with all the talent around him, he's just not the guy, man.
How much do you think that has to do with how much this lineup shifted over the past 3 years? Because you have to remember they get an Alshon. You have to have timing with your wide receivers and continuity with your offensive line. Know where people are going to be, right? So you're missing Dallas Goedert, who, in my opinion, has become a better pass catching tight end than even Zach Ertz, just based on athletic ability alone. Not necessarily sitting in zones and reading the defense and things like that, but he is definitely kind of taking the torch from Zach Ertz. So you're missing him, and they run a lot of two tight end offense. Alshon Jeffrey hasn't played for the majority of the past 2 years. Deshaun Jackson got signed last year and has missed the majority of the past 2 seasons. You keep bringing up practice squad guys, and he seems to have a kind of a weird consistency with the practice squad guys, but they're not elite playmakers. So there's quarterbacks around the league who can make these short passes and have their guys carry a slant route all the way to the end zone, a bubble screen, and get by defenders all the way to the end zone. He's not getting any type of help like that. So how much does this actually have to do? And I'm not talking about the first 3 weeks. There was a lot that was just Carson making bad throws and bad decisions. But when you look at a game like this against a team that everybody picked to beat us, with practice squad guys and a freaking guy that caught a touchdown pass that played at Old Dominion, who I don't think anybody knew had a freaking football program, right? The guy said he lost the ball in the I mean, he's made some elite plays, elite throws. How much does it have to do with all the changing around him? And even with the coordinators, all the changing.
Look. I believe genuinely that Carson Wentz was the greatest interview in the last 10 years during the draft. If you go back and watch Carson Wentz at North Dakota State, there's nothing impressive there. He's like watching –
except he won a championship every year there.
Stop. Don't you say Division I AA championship to me and talk about – tell me another Division I AA champion that's won anything in the NFL. Don't worry. I'll wait because it doesn't exist. Listen, Carson Wentz is a smart guy. Carson Wentz is a likable guy. Carson Wentz did a very good job at convincing teams that he would be able to figure it out. Not that he knew it. Carson Wentz didn't read defenses at North Dakota State. Carson Wentz didn't run an audible book at North Dakota State. Carson Wentz didn't check down out of plays. Carson Wentz was a one-read quarterback, and that's where it ended. If his one read wasn't open, he ran the football. That's what he did. That's what it is. The problem, in my opinion, with Carson Wentz, as a lot of people say stupid shit like mental block. There's no mental block. This is who this guy is. Carson Wentz is a guy who in 4 seasons has not learned how to read a defense, has not learned how to check down to his second and third reads, has not learned how to trust anybody. And the reason why Carson Wentz overperforms and overachieves with no names is because he knows if he makes a bad throw, if he puts something up to John Hightower or Jalen Reagor that should be a good wide receiver's contested catch and it ends up as an interception, everybody's going to say John Hightower didn't make a play on the ball. They're not going to say Carson Wentz threw a bad pass. You have guys like Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey.
He can't get a break now.
You have guys like Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey. I mean, look at what Nelson Aguilar is doing in Oakland. Not that he is an all-timer by any means. He's far from it. But look at what he's doing with the quarterback that trusts him. The problem with Carson Wentz is he has no problem taking the chances when the guy he's throwing to is nobody. Because if Carson Wentz makes a bad throw to Alshon Jeffrey or Deshaun Jackson, it's not Deshaun and Alshon missed the play. It's not Alshon didn't fight hard enough for the ball. It's Carson Wentz made a bad pass. And he's so afraid of his ego falling because that's how he operates. He got a chance he did not deserve. He got drafted 2nd overall. Was there better quarterbacks than him after him? That's, I mean, as arguable as you can make something. Who knows who ends up where and with what team. But the fact of the matter remains, look at Carson Wentz's North Dakota State career and what he was, and take away the anomaly of that one season and look at what he's been. And that's who he is. Can they win again with him? Absolutely. If you surround him with the right type of talent and you scheme an offense for him, anybody can win. RG3 could have won 3 titles with the right coach and the right players. It's about scheme and fit. But this team and this front office believe Carson Wentz is Aaron Rodgers. And I hate to break it to everybody listening. There's not going to come a day. Carson Wentz could have everything go right from here till the time he dies. He'll never be Aaron Rodgers. He'll never be Russell Wilson. He'll never be Tom Brady. He's just not that guy. That's it.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, let's move to a couple different things. So Aaron Rodgers does a podcast with Pat McAfee every week. It is my favorite podcast, the Pat McAfee Show. He's hilarious. I'm very entertained every time I watch it. They were asking Aaron Rodgers about what people were always referring to as his down years. And from about 2012 to 2015, they said he had elite quarterback play. And then from 2016 to about 2019, the coaching changes. Mike McCarthy throws the ball away a lot. It's a down year for him. He doesn't have it anymore. This year, in the MVP running, might be the favorite at this point. Him and Russell Wilson, there are 1 and 2. Russ is probably a little bit ahead of him. But Green Bay looks very good. Green Bay's Aaron Jones looks great. Aaron Rodgers is completing an insane amount of passes. I don't think he's thrown an interception yet this year. And so Aaron Rodgers said he doesn't really pay attention to any of that because I think I'm paraphrasing, his worst years are most QB's career years.
He said my down years are career years for most other quarterbacks. And I said, thug life? What a thug, bro. I mean, listen to me. You got the nutsack to sit on a podcast where hundreds of thousands of people are going to watch that and say some crazy shit like that in a league with Tom Brady, in a league with Pat Mahomes, in a league with Russell Wilson. Listen to me, Aaron Rodgers, if he did not have your respect as a gamer before, you got no excuse left to give me, dog. That dude does not care who you are, what you think, where you come from. I'm me, and I'm going to come out and show you. And that's what he did.
Yeah, now just to point this out, when he's played pretty much a full season, I'm trying to right now look for,
a bad year.
You can back this up, right? So let's see, I'm trying. Give me a sec. So
that's okay. Take your time. I think it's going to take a little while.
His worst year is something like in 16 games throwing for 3,800 to 4,000 yards with almost 30 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. He's never thrown more than 13 interceptions. He was 6-10 last year. By the way, I'm referring to his rookie year. So his rookie year was probably his worst year. 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, 13 interceptions with a 64 QBR. And then pretty much every year after that, he's had 1 year where he threw 11 interceptions, but every year after that's been under 10. I don't think he's thrown 9 any other year. And most years he's thrown in excess of 25 to 30 touchdowns. This year already, we're at 1,200 yards, 13 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think right now he's on pace, if I'm not mistaken, for about 5,000 yards, 52 touchdown passes, and no interceptions, which would, obviously he's probably not going to stay at that pace, but he's right, is the point I'm trying to make.
That's sick. Now, real quick, bro, I know you want to argue with me about this because we do it every episode. And I'm going to let you start this one because, I like to wrap up with logic and sense instead of pure passion and emotion. Tell me why. I don't even know the why. Tell me what exactly. What makes you believe that the New England Patriots are actual contenders?
I'm glad you asked. I am so happy you asked. So, do you know, as far as rankings go, offensively and defensively, how many teams are top 10 in both?
Tell me the statistics that don't matter.
There's one team that's top 10 in both. They're the New England Patriots. And right now, the Patriots, first of all, they almost took out your Seattle team the other day.
Almost only counting horseshoes and hand grenades, motherfucker. Try again.
They're 2-2, right? They just played. They lost to the Seahawks and Chiefs, who we can agree are two of the top 5 teams in the NFL. They beat? They beat the Dolphins and the Raiders.
Oh, God.
Now, hold on.
Stout competition.
You asked me a question. I'm going to answer it for you, okay? So, if anybody, and this is a good lead into Monday Night Football. So, Monday Night Football comes around. We got Brian Hoyer, who's a veteran quarterback, but not a good quarterback. Just he's a backup quarterback starting for the Patriots. The Patriots right now have a top 5 defense in the NFL. I'm not worried about them on the defensive side of the ball. When you have a top 5 defense and you're able to run the ball, good things happen, a la Tennessee Titans last year. Teams like that. And that's what the Patriots are pretty much doing this year. So you got a new QB and a new system. Josh McDaniels is there. Cam Newton has been asked to take out a lot of the rushing load. There's a lot of RPOs being ran. There's a lot of option plays being ran, and he's a very hard guy to bring down. Now, when you watch the Patriots and the Chiefs on Monday night, what happened that game in the first half? It ended up being, I think it was 10-3 going into halftime, or 6-3, something, 7-3. You're already putting up your hand.
What happened in that game? The best team in football, by your account, didn't take them seriously. That's it.
No, that's not what happened because when you're Andy Reid, you always take Bill Belichick seriously.
We
So
had
what,
14 years of Andy Reid. You know that's not how he is.
He just won a Super Bowl last year. This is not the same Andy Reid, and we've already agreed on this, that he needed to move on from the Eagles in order to get better, and he has. He has a great offensive coordinator as well, and he has Patrick Mahomes. But let's
finish your point so I can take them all out at the same time. Go ahead.
All right. So if somebody's going to tell me the Patriots turned the ball over 4 times last game, 2 of those times they could have had a lead going into half because they had the ball inside the 13. They turned the ball over once, and then at the end of the half, Bryant, with I think it was 13 seconds left, they had no timeouts. They ran a 3rd down play. They were supposed to get a field goal. So at that point, Brian Hoyer is supposed to take a pass, look in the end zone. If he doesn't see anything, he's supposed to throw it away. What does Brian Hoyer do? He takes a sack. The Patriots don't have a timeout, and they go into the half getting no points twice. So that should have been a tie game pretty much at halftime. Can we agree on that? At least with field.
I'm not going to entertain your shoulda, coulda, wouldas, dog. Keep going.
No,
I'll take it all.
If you're inside, if any team is inside the 13-yard line, they should at least come away with a field goal. Correct.
Your argument to me right now is the Patriots are contenders.
I'm asking you a yes or no question.
Good teams? Yes. Bad teams? No. Continue.
What? Bad quarterbacks. The Patriots are up. The Patriots,
come on.
How can you watch the Patriots this year and not think they're a good team? So, by the way, so what happens in the second half? The game is still a 1-possession game. Brian Hoyer throws a little out pass to Julian Edelman, hits him in the hands, goes into the DB's arms, pick 6. Stidham also throws another interception at the end of the game. So basically, we're talking about a 16-point swing because you're nailing 2 field goals. And again, they are what ifs. I'll give you that, but it's always about what ifs when you're evaluating talent versus teams that are Super Bowl.
About what ifs when you lose, not when you win.
No, it's what ifs when you win too, because Patrick Mahomes played horrible. So what you're sitting at Kansas City, you're like, we played a horrible game. The only reason we came out with a win is because Brian Hoyer was at quarterback. We got to be better next game. And if
you're telling me that your what if in New England holds water, my what if in Kansas City that Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid take that game plan more seriously against Cam Newton?
You seem to think that the Patriots are not even a playoff team. And
No, I agree with you. They will make the playoffs. They're not going to make noise. You just a minute ago compared them to the Tennessee Titans. What did the Tennessee Titans do last year? 2nd round exit. I'll agree with you. Sure. You said Super Bowl contender.
They weren't a second round, and they got to the AFC Championship game.
You said Super Bowl contender. Was Tennessee a Super Bowl contender at all last year looking back?
They got to the AFC Championship game last year.
If you look back objectively, hindsight's 2020. I'm not asking you how you felt in 2019. Right now, when you look back, was Tennessee a Super Bowl contender ever? No.
But that goes back to our argument about making the playoffs on any given Sunday. Any team can beat any given team on any given Sunday. So we didn't think Tennessee was going to beat any of the teams that they beat in the playoffs last year, but they did, and they did it twice. So you're going to tell me that you're not scared going into the playoffs of a guy that's been in the postseason 20 straight years and has won 6 Super Bowls. You're not scared of that.
Cam Newton's his quarterback. I watched Cam Newton in a Super Bowl when he was getting his teeth kicked in, fail to fall on a fumble because he was scared of getting hurt.
Ron Rivera was also his coach.
Nope. Ron Rivera has taken the Washington football team away from the basement and made them look like a decent football team. They're not good. They're okay.
They're 1-3. So
and again, we're going to talk about records. You just tried to defend 2-2 with the Patriots based on that they're a better team than their record shows.
I think they would have won last week, and I think I have points to prove it if Cam Newton is playing.
And if Cam Newton is playing and not out of that game, the game plan from Kansas City, Andy Reid, and Patrick Mahomes is 110% different. Patrick Mahomes going up against the quarterback that he knows cannot put up more than 10 to 20 points on his team is not playing all that. You know why? Patrick Mahomes has 16 games to play. A great quarterback knows that.
You do not. What quarterback ever takes games and quarters off because of the other quarterback on the other side?
Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, the great ones.
nobody has ever taken a playoff because of the quarterback on the other side until the coach benches you because your lead's too big in the fourth quarter. They played horrible. It didn't look good for them. They would have lost that game if Cam Newton's playing. I guarantee it. This team is going to end up finishing with 10 or 11 wins. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to beat whoever they play in the first round.
How much money do you have in your bank account that you want to lose if they don't touch 11 wins?
They'll win 10 games. I said 10 or 11. They'll win 10 games.
There is no chance. There's no chance anywhere in any world in any existence that team wins 11 games. Is 10 possible? Sure it is. Here's why 10's possible. Because certain teams in this 2020 season are going to be locked into the playoffs and the lead in their division 4 weeks before the end of the season.
All right. So
there's so much bad football. You cannot give me that bullshit argument.
Here's their schedule.
I don't care. It doesn't matter.
You have to care.
No, I don't, because Cam Newton is their quarterback.
Okay, so we can make a bet then that the Patriots are not going to win 10 games. You want to bet that?
I said to you,
Write
10 games is possible. I'm not going to call it probable.
You just said how much money do you want to bet they won't win 10
games? 11. 1 and 1 makes 11, not 10. I said 11. There's no world possible.
Now we're getting into
we can rewind the tape, dog. I said it on live. I'll stand by what I said. There's no existence in the world that the Patriots win 11 games. And most importantly, the reason why they are not a Super Bowl contender is because their quarterback is Cam Newton. That's why.
So Justin says on. Hold on. Let me. I'm gonna put a whole nother page of our guarantees. So first he said, not going to win 11 games. I'll bet any amount of money they probably won't win 10.
I said I bet any amount of money they won't win 11.
Won't win 11, probably won't win 10. All right. So that's the Justin guarantee.
And write this down too. Put it in there. The Justin guarantee, there's no chance in hell that the Patriots make the Super Bowl. Period. Hard stop. No way. Not happening.
All right. I disagree that there's no chance. Bill Belichick's your coach. You have a great defense. You can do anything.
They're your AFC favorite, which is mind-blowing.
They're not my favorite. No, of course not. I still like Baltimore and Kansas City better.
Baltimore? Do we need to talk about Baltimore seriously?
No, they're bad against Kansas City. If they play
Baltimore is the greatest paper gangster team in the history of time because Lamar Jackson is pre-Philadelphia Mike Vick, who cannot play the quarterback position. He's an elite athlete. He's the greatest running quarterback we've seen since Mike Vick, but he cannot be a quarterback yet. He needs time.
Mike Vick's never got close to winning an MVP, and he's still young. He's got a lot of good years ahead of him.
The fuck did you just say to me? Mike Vick never got close to winning an MVP?
Yeah, that's what I said.
So Michael Vick, in his Atlanta Falcons career, was never in the top 5 of MVP voting?
He couldn't throw the football. Lamar Jackson threw for almost 40
touchdowns. Was Mike Vick in the top 5 of MVP voting during his Falcons career, yes or no?
What is top 5?
That's near an MVP.
If you're not in the discussion, I don't care about 5. You know who's going to be in top 5 this year? Probably friggin' Ben Roethlisberger is going to be a top 5 MVP.
Ben Roethlisberger is not going to be a top 5. It's Pat Mahomes. It's Lamar Jackson. It's Josh Allen. It's real quarterbacks.
All right. We'll come back to Lamar Jackson at the end of the year too and see how he does.
Jesus
Almighty. By the way, Dwayne Haskins just got benched.
Shocker.
That was breaking news right before. Kyle Allen is very familiar with Ron Rivera's coaching style. I think that's going to give the offense a little lift. I watched the Redskins last game. Dwayne Haskins actually didn't play bad, but there's just no juice when he's in the game. It feels like the offense is a little bit lackluster. They don't want to play for him. Hopefully, not hopefully because it's the Redskins, but do you think Kyle Allen's going to
Washington football team? One day you'll get it. I know it's hard, but one day you'll get it.
You think the Washington football team is going to benefit from having Kyle Allen over Dwayne Haskins, or are they kind of the same quarterback?
They're the same team. I mean, is Dwayne Haskins has the higher ceiling, obviously. If Ron Rivera can get everything out of him, he's going to be better than a career backup will be. Does that mean all of a sudden that they're a significantly better team that's going to make noise? I don't think so. I think Washington's going to find a way to squeak out 5 wins, maybe 6 in their best case scenario. Ron Rivera is going to get more out of that team than any coach that they've had up until this point will. No, it doesn't change anything, dude. I mean, is it marginally improved because he's more familiar with Rivera's offense? I guess so. But again, what does that do for you? It means you maximize the potential, and at this point, your maximum potential is 5 or 6 wins in this horrendous division.
Yeah, I would agree.
By the way, I got one more football point before we move on that we need to get out. The Dallas Cowboys are historically bad. Not just real bad, not, oh my God, how can they be so fucking bad? They are historically bad on the defensive side of the ball. And this is what's amazing to me. We had a decade of when Sean Lee wasn't on the field, that whole defense couldn't play, right? We remember Sean Lee was the MVP of that defense. If Sean Lee was out, that defense was worthless.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones did the right thing. He got a real number 1 corner in Byron Maxwell. They've got another good linebacker in Jalen Smith. They've got guys, right? It's not just Sean Lee.
Yeah, Van Der Esch, he's out, but yeah.
But that's my point. Clayton Van Der Esch is the new Sean Lee. You go back to when Clayton Van Der Esch was drafted. When Van Der Esch doesn't play, that defense is porous. And I don't get it. And all of the Cowboy fans, all of these, what does Howard Eskin call them, cockroaches, all of these Cowboys fans in this area who were loud as shit. We got CeeDee Lamb. We got Zeke. Our offense. Well, guess what, guys? You let the Cleveland Browns, led by Baker fucking Mayfield, score 49 points. That is embarrassing. This team is historically bad. Mike McCarthy has proven again he is a horrendous coach. And everybody's still Team Rodgers.
There's no discipline, and it's unbelievable. They're not just out of position. They look unwilling to tackle. They're taking guys are taking screens 50 yards against them. There's no one in the middle of the field half the time. The safeties are yelling at each other after almost every play. It's fun to watch as an Eagles fan. And the only team that is giving up more yards than the Dallas Cowboys this year is your Seattle Seahawks, which is why they still have to do a little bit more on defense for me to say, hey, I think this team is the Super Bowl favorite. I like Russell Wilson right now and what he's doing more than I even like Aaron Rodgers and more than I even like what Pat Mahomes is doing, obviously. But Seattle has to end up playing some kind of defense for me to give them that nod. And I think at some point with a Bobby Wagner and having Pete Carroll, they're going to get that together. But Dallas has given up more yards and points, I think, than any other time since like 1950. It's been like 60 or 70 years since this team's been that bad. Historically bad. 164 points through 4 games. It's laughable. And the best part about it is they took CeeDee Lamb out of spite for the Eagles because they knew if they got past the Cowboys, the Eagles were getting CeeDee Lamb. They were going to get him. And they decided to go offense instead of defense. There were some great defensive ends on the board. There were some great D tackles on the board. They obviously didn't think they would need to draft linebackers, but they do have some injuries. But you let go of a Robert Quinn, who was your best edge rusher last year. You lose your cornerback. You lose a couple, small pieces on defense, and then all of a sudden you didn't draft or sign any free agents to replace them and just went into the field. They have a bright spot. Diggs has played pretty well at the cornerback position a couple games. I didn't watch him last game. He must have gotten torched a little bit the way the Browns scored. But that happens when, you got to give the Browns a little bit of credit because they're putting up a lot of points this year. But to give up 49 points to the Browns is embarrassing because I haven't seen them do that to anybody since they came back into the league. And Baker Mayfield is not a good quarterback. They put up
the most embarrassing stat is 300 plus rushing yards.
Brown, right?
That's out of control.
Chubb got injured that game. So
how do you – I don't give a shit if Chubb was Superman in that game. How the fuck do you allow an NFL team to score to run 300 yards on the ground?
Yeah, you got
That's
dominated.
out of control,
You got
bro.
dominated at the line of scrimmage on that side of the ball. And to be honest, we talk about Dak Prescott a lot and fault him for a lot of things, but when you got to drop, Burrow drops back 60 times because he gives them the best chance to win. Joe Mixon's a great running back, but they want the ball in Burrow's hands. They throw it 60 times. Dak Prescott's throwing the ball 60 times because they have to catch up. And that's, a ridiculous stat. He's going to be leading the league in passing yards, probably in touchdowns, yards per attempt. He's got an elite offense. He's got CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Ezekiel Elliott, so on.
And they're probably going to miss the playoffs.
And they might miss the playoffs. And it's kind of unbelievable. So, props to Dak. He did turn the ball over the other day twice, but when you're dropping back 60 times, it's going to happen. He's had a really good year. And remember, we talked about it before the season. It pained me to say that he was one of my MVP candidates. But if the Cowboys keep losing, he's not going to win it, regardless of the numbers that he puts up. So
I'm with you.
And the even funnier part about it is the one guy who's keeping you in these games and giving you a chance to win is Dak Prescott, and he's the only person on your team that you haven't locked up long term, and you gave everybody else a contract before him. So the Cowboys' future is in trouble, and they need to figure that out quickly.
They got the red rocket, bro. Dalton will save them. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's right. So moving on, how many games did we say the Lakers would win?
So I said 4. You said 5. You were right. I was wrong. I really didn't think Jimmy Butler had a 40-point triple-double in him, and I will give props where props is due. Jimmy Butler by himself willed the team to that win. But I said it yesterday, and I really thought they'd cover the spread. It was close, but
they did. It was
7.5, wasn't it?
They lost. I think they ended up losing by 6, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. The Lakers didn't cover the spread, bro. 7.5.
I thought you were picking Miami up to cover. Gotcha.
I don't know how many more instances we need to see before people understand just how good this Laker team is.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes back to my point that you disagree with for some stupid reason about the Patriots and the Chiefs game, that the Chiefs did not take that game seriously. Game 3 was not LA taking a game off together, but if you go back and watch that game, it was everybody but LeBron James was not prepared. And nobody saw Jimmy Butler scoring a 40-point triple-double.
He had a bad game.
No, he did. He did, yeah. But it's because he felt like he had to play for 4 other guys. That's what LeBron does. When LeBron has a bad game, it's because nobody around him is playing at all. Anthony Davis scored 15 points.
Yeah,
Anthony Davis has no business scoring 15 points, period. If you don't give me 25 plus, you're not Anthony Davis today. You're Bam Adebayo, and I'm not interested in listening to you. Yeah. This team is so good. I will say it out loud. I don't know how many people are ready to admit this. Game 4 was a bad game for the Lakers. That was not a good game. LeBron was off. Anthony Davis was off again. They got bailed out by bench players again. Danny Green hit a couple of big shots. Markieff Morris was on. Rondo was good. Kuzma had a couple of big shots.
AD came up huge at the end of the game.
Of course he did, because that's what you pay Anthony Davis for. Anthony Davis is a max player because when it matters, that motherfucker scores the ball. That's it.
So this game, it's funny because there's this guy, I've talked to a couple guys, and when they're anti-LeBron, they're big on Kyrie, and then Jimmy Butler's dominating them. So what I heard before this last game, this was a new one. It's hilarious because I would never in my rational mind think to even utter these words out of my mouth. I was told that nobody can stop Jimmy Butler one-on-one. That's what I was told. Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Butler, first of all, tons of props because he's never going to do it again. But a 40-point triple-double without taking a 3 is one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. He completely willed this team to a win. It took every ounce of energy and every ounce that he didn't even know he had to come up with that type of performance. He had one of the best all-time finals performances in the history of the NBA. It was that good. So this game, I thought that was such a ridiculous statement. He starts the game 5 for 5, right? And he has 11 points, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, you can't let him do this again. The rest of the game, he ends up 8 for 16, which means from the second quarter till the end of the fourth quarter, he had 3 field goals and missed 8 to 10 shots. He got to the free throw line a ton, by the way. I don't want to hear anything about the refs. Miami's been getting to the line and getting the calls the whole series just to try to make it close. So AD, Jimmy Butler was stopped for about 7 straight possessions when he was trying to will them back in the third and fourth quarter. I was watching it and I was laughing at the statement in my head. AD hits a huge shot to ice the game when the Lakers were up 6 with about 40 seconds left. And then they give up a bucket, and then Miami gets a turnover where they could have cut the lead to 2 buckets, and then Jimmy drives in on AD, and AD blocks his shot to ice the game. So when you say that, you can't stop Jimmy Butler, they stopped him for 3 quarters. He had given everything he had. He's an elite player, but he's not Jamal Murray. He's not an elite offensive player. He's not going to give you 2 40 or 50-point games. So you got to find scoring somewhere else. LeBron had 5 turnovers in the first half. He had 8 points going into the half. AD had 8 points going into the half, and they were still up 4. So when I'm watching this game and I see a bad first half by LeBron and 8 points by Anthony Davis, and they're winning, I'm thinking the Lakers are going to win this game because there's no way that LeBron is going to have more than a bad 4 quarters of basketball. So LeBron ends the game after scoring 8 points and having 5 turnovers with 28, 12, and 8. With only 6 turnovers. So he only turned the ball over 1 time in the second half. AD ends up with 22, 9, and 4 with 4 blocks, which were all pretty big blocks after scoring only 8 points. He had a big shot at the end of the game. I did take the under yesterday. I placed a bet on that. I thought the Lakers were going to clamp down. I don't even know if it was necessarily clamping down, but there was a lot of missed shots yesterday. And KCP, So KCP at the beginning of the year was getting clowned so hard by Lakers fans that Dwight had to come to his defense on Instagram. KCP has been the 3rd guy on the Lakers for the majority of this playoff run when they've needed a bucket. He's hit timely corner threes, timely bucket after timely bucket. He had a layup, I think, over Jimmy or Bam when the Lakers were in a drought yesterday. And then the same thing kind of goes for Danny Green. People have been clowning Danny Green for the whole finals run and saying he shouldn't even be on the floor. I don't think they realize that even if Danny Green only gives you 6 points, he's a 6'6" small forward that can move with just about anyone and is a very good defensive player. So people who don't watch basketball clowning KCP, clowning Danny Green, if those are the 2, for the most part, I'm not going to say they're the worst guys that touch the football, but they wouldn't be
basketball.
Basketball. But KCP, there's a lot of teams that he wouldn't be performing well on, and this Lakers team has brought the best out of them. Their whole roster is good. Caruso's playing well. Rondo plays well. Dwight Howard had a bad game yesterday and got pretty much pulled out because Miami went small, and they still found a way to win. The Lakers team overall is one of the better teams that I've seen. And you can't tell me after watching Miami last night that they're not good enough to be playing the Lakers. The Lakers are just that fucking good. Props to Miami.
No doubt. And listen, again, and props to Jimmy Butler for winning that one game. Jimmy Butler showed you that if it's necessary, he'll be able to will you into a game, and he needs you to come back him up. And Miami's just not deep enough and just not good enough.
They need a superstar.
Because listen, Jimmy Butler to me is a marginally better Paul George. Very strong defensively. Where he's better is Jimmy Butler doesn't miss like Paul George does in the playoffs. Paul George's offensive game I don't know what happens. I don't know if he sold his soul to the devil and every year he makes the playoffs, he just can't score anymore. I don't know what happened to Paul George.
Yeah.
But that's Jimmy Butler to me. Jimmy Butler's a star. Jimmy Butler's bordering a superstar, but he's not LeBron, Anthony Davis, Kawhi Leonard, Luka Doncic, even a guy like Pascal Siakam, who I think over the coming years we're going to see is one of those new budding dominant superstars. What I see out of this Lakers team, dude, is and again, to address the clowning of KCP and Danny Green, They're two very different situations. KCP came up through Detroit under bad management, under bad coaching. It goes to LA with another terrible coach in Luke Walton. KCP is a prime example of one of those borderline guys that LeBron James just makes better. And Frank Vogel. I don't want to take anything away from Frank Vogel and how he's also helped KCP. Danny Green's very different. Danny Green does not get recognized his career over for his defense, which is a shame. A lot of people forget Danny Green came up under Greg Popovich. Correct. Danny Green came up through a Spurs system that taught you until you learned how to defend, you won't touch this ball on the other side of the court. Right. That's how Pop taught defense to everybody. If you think that you're this offensive juggernaut, cool. Show me you can play on the other side, and I'll let you show me what you've got. That is Greg Popovich's coaching system in a nutshell. Danny Green has been on a handful of teams. One of the most underrated, important pieces to not only playoff runs, but to championships. Danny Green has been a gigantic part of that.
Been there before.
KCP is a paradigm to me, bro. I know why LA brought KCP in the first place, because KCP was so misused in Detroit. They did not play to his strengths. Everybody wanted to play him at the 2, where he wasn't strong enough on defense. He used to get into foul trouble in Detroit all the time. There's a lot of issues with KCP. But again, when you inject a guy like Frank Vogel, who's very good at the core basics of making a player a little bit better as a coach, and then you put him on a floor with a guy like LeBron James and Anthony Davis, everybody around you wants to play better. Mm-hmm. This argument of LeBron doesn't make guys as good as Jordan did. Scottie Pippen was an All-NBA player without Michael. Steve Kerr was one of the greatest shooters without Michael. Kukoc, Rodman, run down the list. He had great players. LeBron has made great players. Kevin Love is my favorite. I had this argument with somebody the other day. Kevin Love's my favorite example of what LeBron James does to another player. Kevin Love was a very high draft pick. Kevin Love was a stretch 4 before stretch 4 really existed. He was changing the game. He could shoot 40% from the outside. He was strong enough.
30 rebounds a game in Minnesota. It was crazy, some of the double-double he put up.
Right. He was strong enough to play the post. A lot of guys didn't know how to defend him. Kevin Love was a great player, right? Kevin Love comes to Cleveland with LeBron and Kyrie, and Kevin Love adapts his game a little bit by the lead of LeBron. And Kevin Love is still a guy that can put 30 in for you. He's still a guy that can get 15 rebounds if you need him to. His skill didn't change, but his execution did. Mm-hmm. And then when Kevin Love got left behind in Cleveland, what happened? I'm hurt every year. I don't want to play that hard. I don't like these guys. I don't try as much. LeBron James is a guy that elevates everybody, regardless of if you start here on the ladder or here on the ladder. Anthony Davis is a prime example of what we're seeing now. Right. Anthony Davis's clutch shooting that you're talking about earlier. Anthony Davis being able to hit the bucket at the end of the game, being able to get the block on Jimmy twice. That type of will is what LeBron brings out of you. And now that you've paired him with a real coach, it's impressive is the only word. It's unbelievable to see the level of accomplishment that they have reached, not in the fact that they're going to win a title. Everybody picked the Lakers to win a title at the beginning of the year. This is no surprise. The surprise is how they're winning the title. They didn't win this game 140 to 129 and just outrun them. They clamped down when necessary. They play defense now, and they're getting a lot out of that bench. And it's because between Frank Vogel and LeBron James and the examples that they set and the lead that they follow, that team is just too good. And all those guys are plug and play, bro. You tell me that J.J. Redick is not as good as Danny Green off the bench? You don't need his defense if Rondo's on the floor with him. You've got plenty of guys that you can really pull in and put in that system. And that's why I say these next 5 years, bro, until LeBron really loses a step, and I don't mean gets his first injury. I mean LeBron James looks like he's 38 years old or whatever age he is at the time. Until that comes, I don't see any way any team is going to give a real problem to these Lakers. We might see a 6 or a 7 game series because they don't play as hard because they're trying to get that longevity and get a couple of titles. But I just don't see what is going to get built where that matches up against not only the talent, but just the intellect and the ability of what they've built there, dude, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and you have to imagine with the same thing that happened in Miami when he was paired with D Wade is going to happen in Los Angeles, where this roster's basically been turned over from the time that he's got there. There's very few remaining pieces. Caruso, KCP are just two of them. For the most part, that entire roster's been changed over. JaVale McGee's come from somewhere else. Dwight Howard wasn't even playing in the league. AD
Markieff Morris, Danny
Morris,
Green.
I mean, Danny Green came from the Spurs, and so there's a lot. Rondo's back from all 6 teams that he was on. So you have to imagine that there's going to be some vets that see what has happened this year. Some older guys that are willing to take a little bit less money, maybe some 3-point shooters, 3-and-D guys that are just going to go to LA and fill those roster spots whenever they lose somebody in order to try to get a championship with LeBron James. So if we think the Lakers just having, AD and LeBron is going to do it for the next couple of years, they're going to keep adding guys that they feel fit that culture and fit that roster. And they're going to continue to be the Los Angeles Lakers with the great role players they have, because everybody knows, and this is the difference between AD in New Orleans and AD in Los Angeles. He knows and has known all year that if he plays well, they're going to win a championship. So when you're in New Orleans and you're the only guy and you might not even make the playoffs versus like, oh my God, I have LeBron James who basically lives in the finals now, you're going to step your game up. And that doesn't necessarily change statistically for you, but what it does is it increases your will. It gives you that extra couple sprints up and down the court. It makes you think about your defensive positioning. You got him putting you in, in places to make shots, and it takes some attention off of you. There's not a lot of times in New Orleans that AD got wide open looks for threes, and there's almost no times in New Orleans that AD, as soon as he touched the ball in the post, wasn't double teamed and they were trying to make somebody else beat you. So it opens up the entire floor. I'm excited to watch them over the next couple of years. I'm really excited and have enjoyed watching LeBron play point guard this year and just pure point guard. He hasn't really been like at any point the guy that looked to score in Miami or Cleveland when they needed to. He's really just concentrated on distributing.
He's a distributor.
Basketball. And
yeah,
really,
and
really
I'm sorry, bro. I know John Stockton. I know Magic Johnson. I know Dame Lillard now. I know these guys that are good distributors. I'm sorry. You match up the tape to any of them to LeBron James, he's the greatest distributor in the history of basketball. There's no doubt about it. He sees everything. He knows how to get – I mean, we're talking about a guy that from cross court can get a bounce pass through 3 defenders to a wide open guy on the other wing. Yeah. It is unbelievable to watch what he's able to accomplish.
The difference between him and, remember someone like Steve Nash playing was, imagine if Steve Nash was 6'8", and Steve Nash wasn't a guy that was really throwing cross-court passes, because if he went up to do it, it was hard for him to get it over guys, and he couldn't get it there quick enough for them to get the open 3 that they were originally in position for. LeBron flicks his wrist, and that ball goes 80 miles an hour, exaggerating, but goes 80 miles an hour to the other end of the court before a defender can get there. And that's what he's so good at, and people don't realize. They say, oh, anybody can make that pass. They can, but just not as quickly and precise and into the shooting motion, and he does it from cross court. It's unbelievable to watch. So he is the best distributor I've ever seen, and Ben Simmons actually reminds me a lot of him. I wish Ben Simmons could shoot and demand a double team so he could distribute like that. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't want to get into it.
But we both agree 100%. This is over in Game 5. There's no chance for Miami.
You can smell
the Lakers are going to win.
He can smell it. There's no way. LeBron wants to go home. He wants to fuck his wife. He wants to beat. He wants to beat his kid's ass for smoking weed on Instagram. He's trying to get the fuck out of that bubble. You have to remember one thing with this Lakers team as well, guys. They are a little bit older, okay? So you got a guy like Danny Green and Rajon Rondo and LeBron James and Dwight and all these guys. They want to go home to their families. They want to get the hell out of the bubble. When you're playing, Jimmy Butler is the only older vet on this team. Tyler Herro, Duncan Robinson,
they're all kids,
young guys, so they don't have this. They want to win the game, but they're not trying to get the hell out of the bubble. The Lakers want to win a championship, and they want to leave Orlando and get the hell out of there and go back to their family. So I see this getting wrapped up in Game 5. I don't see it being pushed at all. And even if for somehow Miami goes on has this ridiculous game and pushes it again, it's going to end in 6. There's just no shot that they come. This is not LeBron James on the other team down 3-1. It's Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Let's not mistake one for the other just because one had a really good game this series.
Now, before we wrap up, we got to do Thursday Night Football. And you let me know that you wanted to do blind picks before we got on. So I know that you didn't have the ability, but I did. I'm reading it now just so I can remember exactly what I wrote down so I can read it in case the camera don't see it. I don't think we're going to disagree on this one. I think this one's pretty easy. Tampa Bay at Chicago. The line is 5.5.
Yep.
Tampa Bay minus 5.5.
Yeah.
Here is what I wrote. Can we see it?
Tampa Bay easily. So what I want to do with this game, listeners, this is an opportunity for you, and I'm going to tell you why. Tampa Bay has right now, I believe, a top 10 defense in the league. This is the first time since I believe the Eagles won the Super Bowl that Tom Brady is going to go ahead and get to face Nick Foles. So he's going to have an extra chip on his shoulder. He's going to want to dominate this game. He threw for 5 touchdown passes last game and had this breakout game. He's got a team around him. He's got wide receivers. They are going to annihilate the Bears because the Bears are a very fake, I believe, 3-1 team. Nick Foles is their quarterback. It is their starter. Make no mistake about it. They benched Mitch Trubisky for him. And Chicago has a good defense. So if this game is going to be close, it's going to be because of the defense. But for all the Eagles fans who are still have Nick Foles' dick all up in their mouth, I want you to watch this game and tell me if there's – when you start watching, in what ways Nick Foles is a starting quarterback in this league. Because the answer that you'll find out is he's one of the greatest backups of all time and maybe is the greatest backup of all time. But he's a journeyman QB because he thinks he's a starter and he's not. So watch this Tampa Bay team with a better than average defense. Would you agree? They're a pretty good defense. Yeah. They're a top 10 defense right around that 8 to 10 mark, and see how he performs and see if he can lead this team. And if he throws 3-4 touchdowns against Brady, I'm going to say, man, this guy steps up against the highest competition and he's still just an average quarterback. I need to see him do it for a full season, and he's not going to. So please watch intensely on Thursday, and we'll cover Nick Foles' game sometime Friday, Saturday, or Sunday for you.
Let's keep running the schedule we did, bro. Let's do Sunday mornings. We'll cover all Sunday football on Wednesday, and if we do find time between our schedules, we'll try to pop in a small show.
Sounds good. So Thursday Night Football coming up tomorrow. Lakers Game 5 coming up tomorrow. We'll give you our picks for Sunday on Sunday and see if we can continue our winning streaks. Any last thoughts, Justin, before we get out of here today?
I'm with you and watch Nick Foles. I'm going to say that Nick Foles doesn't see the end of that game because for some reason when he plays good teams outside of Philadelphia, he just gets hurt. So I'm going to give my little parlay over under holy shit balls. That's a crazy bet, as in Nick Foles gets hurt before the fourth quarter. Pay attention to this Laker game. We're not going to have basketball for at least a little while after this game is over. Enjoy it. Have fun. The season's done. We knew this going in months and months and months ago that we were going to watch LeBron James raise another title and raise another finals MVP that he earned. Enjoy it. And again, I'm with you, man. This is an easy game for me. This is a 14-point win by Tampa Bay. If it's a game you're trying to look for that's safe, this is an absolute lock against the spread. Absolute lock against the spread. I'm not going to get political like I do sometimes, but I'm going to say one thing. Just one thing. I'm not one, but I can speak for them. The Democrats don't want to shut down your churches forever, guys. Don't be scared. It's okay. We're all just normal people. Stop watching the fucking news and hating people for no reason. Have real discourse like me and my boy Aaron talking to each other face to face. If you think something of somebody else, go have a conversation with that person. Don't talk shit and not give them the chance. That's all I got.
I'm going to type it out, because I don't
Keyboard warriors.
All right, that's all we got for Big Facts. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you guys Sunday, and you have a good rest of your week, Justin. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bro.
All right.